All right, let's move on. 70 years ago on Sunday, Darwin came under attack from Japanese bombers. The city had already been evacuated, but around 250 people were killed.
131 of those were in service with the US Army based in the city. Tom Lewis is a military historian and director of the Darwin Military Museum, and he joins us now from the Cenotaph in Darwin. Good morning to you. 70 years on, what effect does this event continue to have on the city of Darwin?
Good morning. It has a pretty significant effect, though I've never seen so many chairs put out as we've got behind me. The anniversary has been going on for years. I attended the 1992 50th anniversary, and that was pretty big, and I really enjoyed it as a historian because I could meet so many veterans. Sadly this year there are fewer, but it's still going to be a big day.
And is it an event that, you're saying it's been 20 years obviously since the 50th anniversary. Are younger generations getting involved, and do they understand the history of this event?
I think they do, and I hope they do. We are getting more younger people interested, and there's a push to get this event and the 2 years we were at war into the national curriculum, which I think is succeeding. So there is a lot of interest from people, but we're also seeing people from overseas. We're seeing interest from Britain and America now, which has never been seen before.
We're just showing some of the pictures from the event. Just take us through what happened on that day.
Well, in its simplest terms, 4 aircraft carriers assembled off the northwest of Darwin, and their 188 aircraft, bombers, high-level bombers, dive bombers and fighters, flew towards Darwin. 9 were detached, 90 fighters were detached and shot down a United States Catalina, but for the rest of it they kept radio silence, and they crossed the islands to the north of Darwin so they could circle round and attack from the southeast. The first that Darwin people knew about it was bombs falling on the wharf. In fact, the air raid siren sounded about 30 seconds to a minute after the first bombs had fallen. Once the high-level bombers had done their business and flew off back to the carriers, the dive bombers came in, and they dived on the ships in the harbour, and they devastated the place. They sunk 10 ships altogether in the raid, but they damaged scores more and killed around about 246 people, wounded hundreds of people. The entire harbour was covered in oil, which was on fire in the main, and so people are starting life-saving attempts. And a ship called the Neptuna blew up at the wharf with an enormous mushroom cloud-shaped explosion, which has made its way into a few photographs. The raid lasted around about 28 minutes to half an hour, and then the Japanese flew away to leave us to deal with the aftermath. But in about 2 hours' time they came back with a different raid from land-based bombers, and this time they struck the runways.
Now, it took a huge toll on the city of Darwin. How has it been able to rebuild?
Well, Darwin's been devastated before. In 1897 and 1937 it was pretty well wiped out by cyclones, and the buildings were not substantial. And then, of course, we had Cyclone Tracy in 1974. Which really did a number on the place. So the building standards have gone up. The houses people live in now are categorised according to code. So code 5 is category cyclone 5. It will survive a cyclone. So it's a lot stronger now, and we've got high-rise buildings and so on. Some of the old Darwin still remains, and of course the harbour still looks the same.
Tom Lewis, we can see all the preparations for Sunday's anniversary going on behind you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.